Well, thank you for sitting with us today, Dr. Wright. And what we're going to do is discuss vein draw, its evolution, and its point of difference. I understand it's a phlebology-specific EMR system. Let's discuss EMR systems and the road, basically, how you got to this point as far as a business and a practitioner as well. What are your thoughts?
Well, Victor, vein draw EMR is absolutely a phlebology EMR. It's designed specifically to take care of patients who have venous problems. And this was originally developed by me and a computer expert who took my practice and the way I did things on paper and converted it to an electronic medical record. And in the course of the years that we've been using this, we've been using it now for a little over 5 years, I've had the opportunity to have a lot of physicians in my office for training. And they see this and they say, wow, where can I get that? And we've been telling them, you can't, because we're not selling it, it's ours. And we heard that over and over enough that we decided to see if the public would like this. And the response has been very strong. We've had a lot of people show a lot of interest in it. We've got about 20 doctors that we're servicing around the country now. And it's the specialty-specific part of it that makes it attractive.
Let's elaborate on that. What's the point of difference?
For one thing, the content is all designed for vein care. This would not be a good EMR to take care of a patient who has congestive heart failure or diabetes. And we have a saying in our design department. We say that information is equal to data minus noise. So I don't even give the doctors a choice to indicate a lot of things that they might want to indicate if they were taking care of somebody with congestive heart failure. It's all about veins. But more importantly, the drawing part of it is really unique in this. This is not a point-and-click EMR. This is not a bunch of drop-downs or pop-ups. If you draw what you're seeing, and if you draw what you're doing, that basically completes all of your documentation. We have a patent-pending process that converts that digital ink into digital data elements that then create text output and generate the logic that creates the billing, the letters of medical necessity, letters to follow for referring doctors and things like that. And that's a unique part of it that is a time saver for most doctors.
The phrase user-friendly, it's kind of a cliche that gets thrown around so much, especially with EMR systems. With your system, how user-friendly is it?
Well, we like to say, and it's very true, if you can draw, you can use this EMR. I mean, basically you just have to pick up a pen and select the ink that you're going to use that indicates what you're drawing, and you just draw it on a tablet, and that program takes care of the rest of it. That turns it into your clinical documentation, letters, billing, and things like that.
Now, what kind of transition can a practitioner expect once they purchase the product? What is the process?
Well, that's a very good question, and it depends a little bit on the practice. A practice that's going from a paper environment to an EMR, whether it's vein draw or any EMR, needs to be prepared for that. And what we've seen is that the practices that are more organized to begin with adopt to this easier. If your practice is fairly chaotic and you have patients showing up that aren't on the schedule and things that are being missed and dropped all the time, then when you throw an EMR into that mix, it makes things more chaotic.
More time-consuming to get organized.
It happens. The EMR forces you to be organized. But if your organization is not one that's already organized, then they've got a lot of changes to go through. It's more difficult for practices that are less organized.
Sure. What kind of support do you offer?
Well, we have standard support that includes on-site training. Everybody that purchases this EMR gets on-site training. It's a minimum of 3 days if it's a small practice with one doctor, and then the size has to be scaled depending on the number of staff and things like that. We typically will make another follow-up visit a few weeks later to check up on things and answer questions that have come about. But we always provide free telephone support as long as there's a maintenance agreement. And that maintenance agreement is costs nothing the first year. It's free the first year.
Is it expandable? I mean, do you have a practice management software embedded into it?
It has a scheduler, but it does not send billing to a clearinghouse, but it interfaces with almost all billing software. So it has practice management in that it tracks marketing, it tracks patients who have missed appointments and puts them in a list of people that need callbacks. So there's a lot of management of the patient in that sense, but it's not something that you could use to send your billing to a clearinghouse and get paid. But there's an easy way to do that by interfacing with the existing billing software that the practice is using.
We're getting really good response and really good testimonials from your system. Why do you feel that is, and where do you see your system developing into in the short run? What have you learned to this point, basically, and what do you see the adaptabilities or the benefits?
The reason why I think ours works is because my program developer and my programming team, we have 4 full-time developers and our IT director, they are completely embedded within my practice. Their office is 2 doors down from my office in the same practice suite, practice location. And so I see them every day. We talk several times a day, and this has been true for now 4 or 5 years, that this has developed and evolved to a point where it fits really well into a vein practice. It's a better product now, I'll say, than it was 2 years ago when we first launched it, because we've had experience with several dozen doctors that will tell us they do things differently than we do. And so we've adapted those features in there, and so there's a lot of flexibility in this to pretty much cover 95% of the way 95% of the doctors practice vein care in America.
Is it scalable?
It's totally scalable. And for the practice that wants to add new locations or have satellite offices, this is perfect, because one doctor will just connect back to that server remotely, and they don't have to have charts in the office, and all of the different locations and the different doctors in the practice can share all those charts together through the server. We've seen this. We've established several practices that then open satellites 50 or 75 miles away, and they just connect back through the internet to their main server, and they're up and running right away.
I'm happy to hear and actually see a product that is vein specific actually working in the market. I'm one to say the proof is in the pudding. When you have such positive feedback about your product, it's good to see that it is actually developing in the right direction.
We just like helping other doctors. We like helping take care of patients that have vein problems, and we think this is a good tool. One of the doctors that has used our tools tells me that, you know, in my office I have some equipment. I have an ultrasound machine, I have a laser machine, and I have my EMR. And a lot of times my EMR is the most important piece of equipment that I have. So we view it that way. It's a way of us helping other physicians and take better care of patients and get home earlier.
How does one get a hold of your system?
We're on a web at veintechnology.com. You can call us on the phone or send us an email at any time, but usually the website's the place to start.
Dr. Wright, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us today. We've learned a lot.
My pleasure.